Back in the 1990s, Burning Man wasn't the glossy desert party people post on Instagram today. It was wild, unpredictable, and completely untamed. The photos from that era capture a side of humanity that's raw and real. People stripped down, covered in dust and paint, living like the world had no rules. Some of those images are stunning. Others, a little too real for everyone to handle. Now, decades later, those same photos are stirring up a debate. Are we looking at fearless self-expression or scenes that cross the line? Stay tuned, because these 1990s photos might just change how you see freedom. The first Burn Man. In this photo, it looks almost too simple to be legendary. An 8-foot wooden figure standing stiffly on Baker Beach, the Pacific fog rolling in behind it. A few people linger nearby, faces half lit by the glow of a bonfire. There are no sound systems, no giant art cars, no desert storms. Just 30-something people, sand underfoot, and the first version of the man about to burn. Nobody there could have guessed they were witnessing the birth of something that would one day draw tens of thousands into the Nevada desert. That night in 1986, Larry Harvey and Jerry James had built the man out of scrap lumber in a Noe Valley basement. They carried it to the beach with a few friends, doused it in gasoline, and set it alight. The flames rose, taller than the crowd, and for a brief moment, the wooden figure became alive, crackling, shifting, reflecting light across the faces of strangers who'd suddenly become a community. As the fire burned higher, a woman ran forward and took the man's hand, holding it as the figure dissolved in heat. That simple act, spontaneous and fearless, became the first unscripted performance in Burning Man history. Even then, no one could agree on what the man meant. Some early burners believed it was Harvey's symbolic way of burning away heartbreak, a goodbye to the mother of his child. Others, including Larry himself, brushed that off as too tidy a story, saying meaning was never the point. Then came Flash, the free-spirited craftsman who laughed and insisted, "Of course it's a woman! Look at the hips!" And that's the truth of it. The man was never one thing. It was whatever people needed it to be. Art, therapy, rebellion, or rebirth. On that foggy San Francisco night, with no tickets, no stage, and no rules, something larger than anyone realized began to take shape. A simple wooden figure burned, and from its ashes, a movement was born. Kevin Evans, on his way to Burning Man. In this photo, Kevin Evans strides confidently through the dust and bustle of hard rock, holding two sturdy sticks like makeshift scepters on his way to Burning Man. You can almost feel the anticipation radiating from him. He's not just carrying wood, he's carrying purpose. Behind the scenes, the vision of Larry Harvey looms large. He's the mind behind the contemporary form of the man, sketching blueprints and carefully designing the figure that would become the event's iconic centerpiece. But it takes more than ideas to make the man walk and burn. Enter Dan Miller, known as the Man's Man, the chief engineer tasked with turning sketches into towering reality. As the structure takes shape, excitement pulses through the small crowd until the unexpected happens. Park police arrive with a firm, no-burn ruling. The compromise? The statue can rise, but the flames will have to wait. That moment sparks a pivotal conversation, planting the idea of relocating the event. With input from the San Francisco Cacophony Society, Burning Man is uprooted, finding a new home in the vast open expanse of the Black Rock Desert, where Labor Day weekend would mark its inaugural desert edition. But even that path is far from smooth. Just 3 weeks before the burn, vandals, or perhaps accident, reduce the man to kindling. The team scrambles, rebuilding the figure in San Francisco, working against the clock, until, with only 2 hours to spare, the man is ready for transport. Finally, in the desert, 90 eager participants gather around as David Warren, a retired carnival worker and veteran fire breather, ignites the towering figure. The flames leap and curl, shadows dancing across faces lit with awe and exhilaration. It's more than a burn. It's the birth of a legend, riding in the dust. In this haunting photograph from Burning Man, 1998, you can almost feel the desert breathe. A lone figure rides a bicycle across the endless dust of the Black Rock Desert, not dressed for comfort, but for transformation. Layers of fabric ripple around them like smoke, their faces painted or masked, half human, half myth. Behind them, distant silhouettes move like mirages. People, art, maybe both, scattered across the horizon of this strange electric nowhere. This isn't just a snapshot of a person on a bike. It's a moment of pure metamorphosis. At Burning Man, you don't just watch art, you become it. And in 1998, that energy was raw. The theme that year was The Nebulous Entity, and it fit. Everything blurred together. Human and machine, body and costume, self and story. You could walk out of your tent as yourself and return as something entirely unrecognizable. Look closer, and you see what makes this photo so magnetic. The contradiction. The rider looks alone, yet not lonely. Surrounded by chaos, yet completely at peace. That's Burning Man in one frame. Solitude inside community, order inside madness, and identity inside dust. And that dust, it isn't just background. It's the great equalizer. No matter who you are, artist, dreamer, wanderer, or CEO, the desert strips you down to your essence. You build, you burn, and for 1 week, you belong to something bigger than yourself. So when you look at this photo, you're not just seeing a person at a festival. You're witnessing a ritual, one that says, forget what you were told to be. Out here, under this pale desert sky, you can be anyone or no one at all. Towering spectacle, the stilt walker who stole Burning Man. In this photo, you don't just see a person, you see a living symbol. A lone figure towers above the crowd, striding through the thick desert dust on impossibly long stilts, wrapped in flowing fabrics that dance with every gust of wind. Around them, costumed wanderers move like sparks of color against the pale expanse of the playa. And for a moment, it's hard to tell where performance ends and life begins. This isn't just a costume, it's transformation, the kind Burning Man was made for. That stilt walker isn't showing off. They're becoming something bigger, something mythic. Every step turns the ordinary desert into a stage. Every shadow cast across the sand feels like a statement. Here, you can rise above the limits of the human body and touch the sky. At Burning Man, everything bends. Time, space, and identity. The ground you walk on feels ancient, yet alive with invention. People come here to shed their everyday skin, and this towering figure is the perfect embodiment of that idea. They're part human, part sculpture, part dream, moving through a haze of dust and sound, connected to something deeper than spectacle. There's power in that image, not just in height, but in presence. The stilt walker isn't towering over people, but among them, reminding everyone that creativity can literally lift you off the ground. This is Burning Man in one frame. Fearless, surreal, and wildly human. A celebration of what happens when you stop asking for permission to be extraordinary. So, when you look at this photo, don't just see a performer. See a person who decided to walk taller and somehow made the whole desert rise with them. Flight in the dust, the swing that captured Burning Man's spirit. At first glance, it looks like he's flying, arms stretched, legs kicked forward, dust swirling all around him. But look closer, and you'll see the ropes. A swing suspended in the middle of the desert. No playground, no frame, just a single person, swinging high over the cracked white earth of the playa, caught in midair as the wind paints motion into the scene. This is Burning Man distilled into one perfect photograph. Freedom, art, and a little bit of madness. The man on the swing isn't performing for a crowd. He's lost in it, suspended between earth and sky, chasing that brief moment when gravity forgets your name. Around him, the desert glows in that strange golden haze, and for an instant, everything feels weightless. At Burning Man, even something as ordinary as a swing becomes sacred. It's not just a seat on ropes anymore. It's a rebellion against stillness. It's movement, joy, and surrender. You can almost feel the desert wind in your face, the laughter echoing off empty space, and the sense that for one small moment, this man has escaped everything. The noise, the rules, and the world beyond the dust. And that's what makes this image unforgettable. It's not about spectacle, it's about release. A grown man alone in a vast desert, letting himself play. No stage, no audience, just the swing, the wind, and the kind of silence that feels like freedom. When you look at this photo, don't just see someone mid-air. You see a soul unanchored. Because out there at Burning Man, sometimes the wildest art isn't built from fire or steel. It's built from the courage to let go and fly. The Burn Unleashed, when fire became art. In this photo, the desert glows like the inside of a furnace. A towering wooden structure, once intricate, now skeletal, is devoured by flames that claw their way into the night sky. Smoke spirals upward, thick and hypnotic, while two small silhouettes stand at the base, frozen in awe. They don't look afraid, they look changed. This is the heart of Burning Man. Not the costumes, not the chaos, but the burn itself. It's the moment everything built, crafted, and adored is handed back to the fire. And yet, there's beauty in that destruction. Watching it, you realize it's not about losing something, it's about releasing it. The fire doesn't just consume wood, it consumes ego, expectation, and all the things people carried with them into the desert. The heat feels personal, like it's burning away something deeper than structure. Around it, silence hangs heavy. Not the kind that's empty, but the kind that's sacred. The crowd doesn't cheer, they witness. For those two tiny figures at the base, that blaze isn't just a spectacle, it's communion. The moment when creation and destruction meet in perfect symmetry. You can almost feel the heat on their faces, the pull of the flames, and the realization that everything beautiful must eventually burn. That's the paradox of Burning Man. Nothing here lasts, not the art, not the city, not even the footprints in the sand. But in the burning, there's clarity. So when you look at this image, don't just see fire. See freedom. See people brave enough to build something extraordinary and then let it go. Because sometimes the most powerful act of creation is knowing when to set it alight. The man ascending, the calm before the burn. In this photo, the desert holds its breath. The sun is just beginning to rise, painting the playa in soft golds and silvers. And there, standing tall against the horizon, is the man. Wooden, towering arms stretched upward, as if reaching for something just beyond the light. There's no crowd yet, no music, no fire. Just silence, that kind of heavy electric silence that comes before something big. This is the moment before chaos, before celebration, before the sky explodes with flame. The man stands alone, patient, unbothered, almost regal. You can feel the anticipation in the stillness, like the desert itself knows what's coming. It's a reminder that every great transformation starts quietly. Before the burn, before the beauty, there's always stillness. The structure isn't just wood and nails, it's symbolism carved into shape. It represents every dream, every creation, every piece of self people bring into this strange, temporary city. For a week, the man watches over thousands who come here to create, connect, and let go. But soon, he'll be reduced to ash, not as an ending, but as a ritual of renewal. What's powerful about this image isn't the fire we know is coming, it's the restraint, the dignity of a creation waiting to fulfill its destiny. There's a lesson here about acceptance, about surrender, about trusting the burn. So when you look at this photo, don't rush to the fire. Stay in the silence for a second. Feel the weight of what it means to build something magnificent, knowing it's meant to vanish. Because that's what Burning Man is really about. Not the burning, but the becoming. Lifted by laughter, the moment. Burning Man came alive. There's something magnetic about this photo. You see a cluster of semi-naked people. Connect and let go. But soon, he'll be reduced to ash. Not as an ending, but as a ritual of renewal. What's powerful about this image isn't the fire we know is coming. It's the restraint, the dignity of a creation waiting to fulfill its destiny. There's a lesson here about acceptance, about surrender, about trusting the burn. So when you look at this photo, don't rush to the fire. Stay in the silence for a second. Feel the weight of what it means to build something magnificent, knowing it's meant to vanish. Because that's what Burning Man is really about. Not the burning, but the becoming. Lifted by laughter. The moment. Burning Man came alive. There's something magnetic about this photo. You see a cluster of semi-naked people, their bodies painted in shades of blue, pink, and gold, gathered in a dusty circle under the desert sun. The air is hazy. The light cuts through the dust like a dream. And everywhere you look, someone's mid-motion. arms outstretched, heads thrown back, faces glowing. It's not a performance, it's play, pure, unfiltered, contagious joy. This is what happens when strangers forget where they came from and just exist together. No stages, no audience, just laughter echoing across the playa. In this space, no one's pretending. The costumes, the paint, the chaos. It's not about hiding who they are, but about showing it louder. Every movement feels spontaneous but somehow in sync, like an unscripted dance choreographed by dust and sunlight. You can almost hear the laughter in the photo, that kind that bubbles up from somewhere deep, the kind that can't be faked. It's the sound of release, people shaking off the weight of everything that doesn't matter. For a few minutes, they're not artists, workers, wanderers, or dreamers. They're just human, breathing, moving, connecting. And that's the quiet magic of Burning Man. The art isn't always built from metal and fire. Sometimes it's built from moments like this: laughter, motion, shared air, things that vanish as fast as they appear, but somehow leave a mark. So when you look at this image, don't just see bodies in paint and dust. See what freedom looks like when it finally relaxes its shoulders. See community at its most real, messy, joyful, and alive. Because out here, laughter isn't background noise. It's the heartbeat of the desert, the builders of the burn. When it all began, before the lights, the art cars, and the desert crowds, there was this: a handful of dreamers carrying wood through the sand. The photo, shot in black and white, feels raw and intimate. You can see the sweat, the laughter, and the effort. It's not glamour, it's grit. These were the early builders of Burning Man, long before it became a cultural phenomenon. Look closer, and you'll notice the simplicity of it all. No sponsors, no stages, no spectators, just people united by an idea bigger than themselves. They're carrying the structure that would become the man, step by step, under a wide, endless sky. You can almost hear the crunch of sand under their boots, the creak of the wooden beams, and the rhythm of shared determination. There's something honest in this frame, a sense of creation in its purest form. These weren't professionals or planners. They were just friends building something because it felt right. And that's the heartbeat of the early Burning Man spirit. Collaboration, sweat, laughter, and the kind of belief that doesn't need permission. In this one frozen moment, you can see the DNA of what Burning Man would later become. Not a festival, but a movement. A reminder that everything starts somewhere humble, carried on human shoulders before it rises into legend. So while the modern playa burns with neon and spectacle, this photograph whispers the real story, that before the art, there was effort. Before the magic, there was muscle. And before the myth, there were just people out in the sand, building something that would outlive them all. Walker in the Haze, the loneliest moment at Burning Man. There's something almost cinematic about this photo. One figure cutting through the haze, head slightly bowed, the sun bleeding through the dust like a slow-motion dream. No stage, no spotlight, just silence, sand, and a man walking as if he's got nowhere to be, yet everywhere to go. This is the kind of moment you don't plan for at Burning Man. It just finds you. The world out there fades into pale nothingness, and suddenly the desert becomes a mirror. You're not just walking through dust, you're walking through your own head. Every crunch of sand underfoot, every gust of hot wind feels like a heartbeat. There's no music, no chatter, no chaos, just you and the endless horizon pretending to listen. Look closer, and you realize this isn't loneliness, it's liberation. The kind that strips away noise, filters, and performance. You don't need to be seen here, you just exist. The dust doesn't care who you are. It swallows CEOs and dreamers alike, leaving everyone as nothing but silhouettes against the sun. And that's the paradox of Burning Man. In a place bursting with sound and color, the most powerful moments are often the quiet ones. A single figure walking through haze, untethered, unseen, but completely free. That's the real magic. When the desert stops being a festival and starts being a feeling. When the lights fade and the structures burn, this is what stays with you. The image of someone, anyone, walking through the storm like they finally remembered who they are. Structure from above, the hidden geometry of Burning Man. From above, Burning Man looks less like a festival and more like another planet, a world drawn by dreamers instead of architects. The shot captures a sprawling wooden structure, radiating out like a giant compass, etched into the desert floor. Around it, specks of people and vehicles trace winding trails in the dust, creating a living pattern that feels both chaotic and intentional. It's art and life folding into each other, geometry meeting human energy. At ground level, you'd probably just see wood and sand. But from this height, you see the bigger picture, literally. The symmetry, the rhythm, the balance between structure and emptiness. It's the kind of view that reminds you why Burning Man isn't just about what happens on the ground. It's about perspective. From up here, even chaos has choreography. Each spoke of that wooden star stretches outward like a pulse, guiding people in and out of its center. You can almost feel the heat bouncing off the beams, hear the faint hum of bikes circling below, and sense the quiet awe that hovers over the playa when something truly magnificent comes alive. This image captures what makes Burning Man timeless, that strange magnetic pull between creation and destruction. Every year, these massive works rise from nothing, command the horizon, then disappear into ash and memory. But while they stand, they remind everyone who sees them that art doesn't need walls or museums. Sometimes it just needs dust, vision, and a sky big enough to hold it all. From above, it's not just a structure. It's a statement that even in the middle of nowhere, humans can still build something worth looking up to. Gazing giants. From above, it looks almost unreal, like the desert itself decided to play with scale. A single sculpted leg towers over the playa, stretching into the sky like a monument to imagination. Below it, festival-goers cluster, craning their necks, faces tilted up in awe. The contrast is immediate. Human flesh and flowing fabrics dwarfed by this massive metal sinew. You feel it in your chest, that pull between wonder and humility. This isn't just art, it's a mirror, a reminder of how small we are and how much bigger the world of creation can be. Step closer, and the details hit you. The leg isn't just a leg, it's geometry, muscle, and myth fused into one. Every curve, every joint, every shadow seems deliberate. People move around it, taking photos, laughing, and pointing. Yet in a strange way, they almost disappear in its presence. It's ancient and futuristic at once, like something that walked out of a dream, paused here for a moment, and dared you to catch up. And then there's the energy. The wind kicks up dust, swirling around ankles and sandals. The light hits the metal, gleaming, bouncing across faces. Someone reaches out, almost instinctively, to touch it, and you can feel the pulse, the heartbeat of Burning Man itself. People flock here, not just to see art, but to experience it, to stand in the shadow of something vast, and feel the universe shrug at you for a moment. This is what Burning Man does best. It takes scale, imagination, and chaos, and turns them into a stage. Flight in the dust, awe in human form. The leg doesn't just exist, it teaches, it humbles, it calls, and for those standing beneath, it's a lesson they'll carry long after the desert winds have swallowed the echoes. Stillness in the dust, the quiet side of Burning Man. From above, it looks like a ceremony frozen in time, like the desert itself decided to host a parliament of souls. A pristine white teepee stands sentinel against the endless playa, its canvas glowing almost ethereal under the vast Nevada sky. The American flag snaps proudly from its peak, a splash of red, white, and blue against the cream-colored shelter that seems to have materialized from another era entirely. But it's what surrounds the teepee that stops your breath. A perfect circle of white shrouded figures sits in meditation, each one draped in flowing fabric that catches the desert wind like prayer flags made of silence. They face inward, towards something invisible yet profound, their forms ghostly and reverent. You can almost hear the collective breathing, the shared heartbeat of this impromptu congregation in the middle of nowhere. Step closer, and the surreal becomes sacred. These aren't just people, They're pilgrims of the moment, wrapped in white like modern-day mystics who found their temple in the dust. The teepee behind them isn't just shelter, it's an anchor point between earth and sky, tradition and innovation, the ancient and the now. A humble wooden chair sits to the side, empty but somehow significant, as if waiting for the next soul brave enough to join this desert meditation. And then there's the energy. The wind moves through the scene like a living thing, rustling fabric, stirring dust, carrying whispers across the playa. The light is everything, soft, golden, infinite, painting each figure with an otherworldly glow. You can feel the vastness pressing in from all sides, that particular Burning Man sensation, where the horizon stretches so far it makes you dizzy with possibility. This is what the desert teaches best. It takes our need for connection, for meaning, for something bigger than ourselves, and gives us space, endless, humbling space to find it. The white circle doesn't just exist, it breathes, it calls, it reminds us that sometimes the most profound moments happen when we simply sit together and listen to the silence between heartbeats. For those who witness this scene, it's a glimpse into the soul of Burning Man itself, where art becomes ritual, where strangers become family, and where the desert wind carries away everything except what matters most. When strangers become one at sunrise. At first glance, this image feels less like a photograph and more like a quiet moment suspended between night and day. A line of people stands hand in hand, stretched across the horizon as the sun breaks through, painting the desert in gold. Their silhouettes cut a perfect rhythm against the light, different shapes, different stances, but somehow one continuous form. You can almost feel the chill giving way to warmth, the still air turning soft as morning arrives. It's the kind of scene from the Burning Man that doesn't need words to explain what it means. The connection is visible, simple, human. Everyone is facing the same direction, toward the rising sun, as if collectively agreeing that this light, this moment, is worth witnessing together. Dust hangs low around their feet, glowing like mist. You imagine the faint shuffle of movement, the crunch of sand, and then the hush that follows when everyone realizes the sun's about to crest fully. There's something ancient about it, too. It could be anywhere, somewhere between ritual and reunion, between strangers and family. The kind of unity that doesn't announce itself. It just happens. From afar, it looks like a circle broken open, letting the light pour in. And maybe that's the quiet beauty of it. No stage, no performance, no center. Just people in the vastness, grounded by their own presence, lifted by each other's hands. The photo doesn't scream for attention, it invites you in. It reminds you that even in the emptiest spaces, when humans come together, they create something whole. Something that doesn't fade when the light changes, because it wasn't just about the sunrise. It was about who chose to stand and face it together. Looking at these photos now, decades later, you realize they're not just pictures. They're proof. Proof that before the lights, before the influencers, before the Instagram perfect chaos, Burning Man was something raw, honest, and human. A place where strangers built a temporary city, not from money, but from meaning. For one fleeting week, art and life were the same thing. And when the fires burned out and the desert turned silent again, it wasn't the end, just a promise whispered into the dust that next year they'd return. So, what do you think about the Burning Man Festival? Have you attended it? And will you be attending again? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click the next video shown on your screen. You're going to enjoy it.